Hey, didn't see you there. You might be wondering, Ewan, what's the fucking hurry? Well, you see, this episode of Ewan The Thing Doer is only available to watch until this timer reaches 0. I don't know what happens when it reaches 0, it just showed up in my living space one day and now I have to deal with it! This gives me an idea. Limited editions, releases of games that are made in limited quantities, are usually released alongside other versions of the same game and are just begging you to spend. Most major game releases these days have these, and they usually come in various flavors. You'll have the standard edition, which just costs the base price and usually just includes the game. Then there's the better edition, which has different packaging, usually includes some extra goodies like in-game skins, maybe a mini art book or some art cards, and are usually the least limited things in existence. Ever been to a GameStop? Have a root around, you'll find about 4 metric tons of Borderlands 3 Deluxe editions. And then there's the super better edition, the one that's in a stupidly huge box and includes just so much useless shit. Breath of the Wild had one with a big Master Sword statue and a map of Hyrule. Final Fantasy VII Remake had a Cloud Strife action figure with his motorcycle. Randy Pitchford's other masterpiece, Aliens Colonial Marines, had one with a big Power Loader statue. Probably one of the coolest ones is Borderlands The Handsome Collection's Claptrap in a Box edition, including the game, a steelbook, some art cards, and a remote-controlled Claptrap robot, which had its own limited edition, the Gentleman Claptrap in a Box. And weirdly, of all the games, SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated had one of these. It had a pair of socks, some keychains, art cards, some stickers, and 3 fucking statues. These ones usually are limited because who in their right mind would buy this? Who? I don't own many explicitly limited edition things. The most I have would be the Sonic 06 holographic sleeve, Sonic Forces bonus edition, and the aforementioned Borderlands 3 Deluxe edition. Now as for Sonic 06, I've searched online for this thing multiple times and I've only ever found 2 other images of it, so I'd consider this thing decently uncommon to say the least. But as for Sonic Forces and Borderlands, they're in no way limited. Despite Sonic Forces bonus edition not being in print anymore, go to a used bin or any normal bin, you'll find a couple copies. And Borderlands, while there are definitely less deluxe and super deluxe editions than standard, there's not really any shortage of them. I wouldn't necessarily call these types of releases limited editions. They can be called collector's editions, ultimate editions, super deluxe editions, big stupid buy me editions. But come on, do you really think THQ Nordic produces more sandy cheek statues than the base game? Limited editions aren't exclusive to game releases, though. They can be seen in pretty much every video game-related thing. For example, limited edition consoles. The consoles that are usually released alongside a big milestone or game release are released in limited quantities and are just begging you even harder to spend. There's a bunch of these. Me or someone else 2 years ago could go on about these for minutes on end. These can tie into games releasing at the time, like a Kingdom Hearts 3 PS4, a piss-flavored Death Stranding DualShock 4, just a bunch of game and movie-based Xbox Ones and a PS4 with Sonic. Yeah, Forces. Oh, only in China, huh? Yeah, for some reason, what's in my opinion one of the best looking PS4 consoles was released to coincide with Sonic Forces in China. Is China really into Sonic Forces? Because somehow I doubt that. It's a shame too, because I really love how this thing looks. 2 versions were released, a black and a white, and they both look really great. I love the outlines of the Yuji Uekawa Sonic art, the scattered PlayStation symbols around the edges are really nice, and as much as I hate Sonic Forces to the core, I have always liked the rough militaristic look of the logo though. It being all monochrome, blending into the art but standing out against the base color of the console just looks really appealing to me. It just bothers me that this thing was released probably the furthest place from me. Most limited edition consoles are like this, even going back to the Game Boy Color. Most of them just apply some design to the shell of the base console, like the Death Stranding PS4 with handprints of the aforementioned PISS controller, or just changing up the colors like the translucent N64s or a shit-ugly reddish-orange Atari Xbox. They were like this until around the Xbox 360, PS3, and Wii era, when more people were getting into games than ever. Companies saw the increased sales in consoles after the PS2 and took the opportunity to make limited numbers of consoles look different from each other, like making an Xbox 360 look like a Star Wars to coincide with a dogshit Kinect game. They've grown increasingly elaborate since then, my favorites being these ultra spiky Godzilla King of Monsters Xbox Ones. These are so impractical looking to a comical degree, I love these things. These are just limited versions of things already available to the masses, though. Video game-related things being released in limited quantities goes way further than an already released thing being made hard as shit to get just by adding one thing to it. There are a couple companies that specialize in releasing certain games and a whole bunch of useless shit in limited amounts for a limited time. This plague upon our houses is called Limited Run Games. They're a company that takes digital-only games and sticks them on a plastic postage stamp and sticks that in a waste of space. I respect what they do to an extent. A good amount of the games they physicalize are digital-only indie games that probably don't really have the budget to release physical versions of their own. From the standpoint of someone who's all for game preservation, this is cool with an asterisk. Sure, preserving digital-only games in a physical format is really neat, but their name kinda gives away what I hate about them. Like, yeah, it's cool that these games are being preserved in a physical form, but said physical forms are only available in a limited amount until a certain date. That's stupid. You could argue it's a budget thing, like they don't have the money to consistently put these out for more than a month. They need that money for the Among Us button. It goes to a good place. But have you seen the useless bullshit they put in these things? Some are pretty neat, like the Doom 64 N64 box or the Genesis-style Scott Pilgrim case, but then there's their $175 Castlevania The Collection release with a book, posters, and a fucking useless NES dust sleeve. And what's probably their worst release, the aforementioned Among Us button. This is the most pointless release of anything I've ever witnessed since Twilight Princess HD. Let's go over what you get here. There's a steel book, a reversible poster, a soundtrack CD with ambient noise.
This shit fucking slaps!
A button that makes sounds from the game, and a Steam download code. That isn't a physical release. Not only does this only appeal to people who have played Among Us and thus already own the game, like who would buy this other than those people? I'm a button fanatic, you know me. But what would happen if you were to redeem this thing after Among Us hypothetically gets pulled from the Steam store? Exactly, there'll be nothing to download and you've wasted your money, not like you didn't do that anyway. That doesn't count as a physical release. The whole appeal of physical games nowadays is preserving them in a scenario in which the digital version gets pulled. Instead of merely owning the right to play a game, you just own the game. Sure, I have a digital copy of A Hat in Time on PS4, but digital can go fuck itself. I want a landfill. It's especially ironic since they published Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, a game that was notoriously unavailable for a decade because it was pulled from digital storefronts. So what better way is there to preserve it than only available until February 28th? I don't get Limited Run. They're a company that constantly pride themselves on being forever physical and all for the preservation of games, but actively make game preservation harder by producing tiny amounts of the games they publish. And you can't argue they don't have the money to produce these for more than a month because they made the Double Dragon, Neon Billy, and Jimmy figures! Limited Run isn't the only company to do this, though. Nintendo has recently dabbled in the bullshit market with one particular release I can't shut up about. Give me an S, give me an Super Mario 3D All-Stars. I've bitched about this game a ton, so I'll keep it brief. Pretty much throughout all of 2020, it was rumored that a bunch of the 3D Mario games would be remastered for the Switch to commemorate Mario's 35th anniversary. September rolled around and that kinda happened. Meet Super Mario 3D All-Stars, a rushed emulation and port job done in 7 months for $60, only available until March 31st. Why? This is what we in the field like to call artificial scarcity, which can be found in a dictionary right next to the word bullshit. It's the practice of intentionally making something harder to get in hopes of more people scrambling to buy it. Putting a timer on this game made people rush to get it, and you know, somehow I think it worked in their favor. Guys, I own Mario 3D All-Stars. I could be rich someday, damn it. It's shitty enough that Nintendo did this for what was one of their most anticipated releases of last year, but someone just gave Nintendo the bullshit button and let them jam it into the fucking wall! Oh neat, it's like Tetris 99, but with the original Super Mario Bros. Oh, look at that, it's the first Fire Emblem game fully localized outside of Japan for the first time. Nintendo, where do you get off? It's bad enough they did this to the first official re-release of Mario Sunshine, a game people are either really nostalgic for or really curious about due to it never getting a re-release, which wasn't even a great version of the game until they patched it months later. But also doing it to the first ever official localization of the first Fire Emblem game, which was notoriously Japan only for the longest time. Making it only $6 on the eShop to prey on people who are curious about the series is actually probably one of the least shitty things Nintendo did last year. It honestly kinda hurts seeing Nintendo, a company I've grown up loving my entire life, manipulate their audience in a way like this. I understand that I'm part of the problem, having bought 3D All-Stars for full price around the time it launched, and seeing people constantly say the subpar emulation in 64 and Sunshine is better than nothing, outright defending the lack of accessibility in Mario Galaxy's menus, and calling the Fire Emblem localization good enough when it comes to legacy content just further contributes to the issue. Shit, I bitched about 3D All-Stars for too long. Limited editions could be a fun incentive for people who are fans of a series to support the games and companies they love, but it should always be an option and not some bullshit stipulation forced upon you like 3D All-Stars, Fire Emblem, or really anything Limited Run puts out, because that's manipulating people's love for a franchise and using it for profit. Ah! Holy shit, I just had the weirdest dream. There was this weird fucking timer in my room counting down to 0, and I owned a copy of Sonic Forces Bonus Edition. Son of a bitch.